Request by Councilor Paul regarding the potential purchase of Murray's auto recycling facility. Marge and Mike, did you want to come up? Welcome.
Thank you. The mic's up there.
I have a question. You've recused yourself in the past on this. Are you going to recuse yourself on this?
Well, to be honest, if you all want me to, that's fine. But there is no financial benefit for me recusing myself on this. I gain nothing from him selling this. I'm in support of it. I actually lose money. But if you all want me to step down, I will. That's a decision the board would have to make. I don't find it a conflict according to the ethics code. But if you do, that's fine.
I just see it consistent with past decisions. So
Ask the board. It would be a vote. If you all think that I'm going to make money off of this deal, which is the ethics code says I have to profit from this. If you think I profit from this, then I will step down.
It's up to you, Sean. You want to?
what does the board think? I'm okay if the board. I'm just bringing it up because it happened in the past.
Yeah. So my issue is even if we vote to say yes, we can't force her to. So
yeah.
It has to be her choice.
Well, she said if we did, and we're discussing it now if we should. And I just thought I'd bring it up because it was done in the past. Someone might ask why we're doing it inconsistently, and I thought that point should be raised at least before we continue further. That's all.
Okay. Do you have an opinion, Dan?
My only thing is I think we're just getting a presentation from them to see if we're going to move forward on this, and have them come back with more information with us. I mean, I don't see where Councilor Paul is going to financially benefit from this. That's my concern. That's my issue. That's all.
Okay, we'll move forward. Go ahead. Sorry about the interruption.
No problem.
Want me to start?
Yeah.
So I'm Mike Speltz. I'm on the Conservation Commission. We're representing the Conservation Commission. I live at 18 Sugar Plum Lane. And Marge
Bedoy, 189 Litchfield Road.
And Marge is the chair of the commission. So this briefing tonight is just to introduce why the Conservation Commission is taking a look at this. And so, as Councilor Bouchard just said, we're not asking for a decision tonight other than your approval to enter into the due diligence to see whether this truly is a good idea. So, are you probably all familiar with Murray's recycling area there, right on a little Cohos marsh, and that's a problem. But they are in the process of putting it up for sale. The assessment you can see there is $676,000. That doesn't reflect the current reassessment. And most of that is land, as you can see. Only about $100,000 of it is in the building. So they're going looking for $1.4 million, but that's because whoever were to buy this as a recycling center would be buying a going concern. They'd be putting in money to buy an asset that would return them money. That's not the case with us. What we're trying to do is mitigate risk. There's a threat that the area is posing to our water supply, and we're trying to mitigate that risk by making it impossible for it to ever be used other than as recreation or conservation land. So it's been worked on a great deal by the Department of Environmental Services. It's pretty much all contamination that's from draining fluids off of junk cars, and that's gotten into the soil. So a lot of work's been done. They've hauled a lot of soil out of there. They've made the facility safer to operate by putting a pad underneath the area where the construction or the destruction occurs, but it's still a threat. Now, the owner has offered to remove everything on the property so that because if you've seen it, you can even look at the aerial, I'll show you in a minute, it's covered with cars, junk cars. He'll take all that out, get all his equipment out, and the only thing that will be left is a pole building that actually could be of some use to the town as a recreation opportunity. You throw a couple of picnic tables there and you know, have your family reunion there or whatever. So what we're trying to do is just reduce this threat, mitigate the threat to the Little Coast Marsh and really all the way downstream. The Little Coast itself flows into the Merrimack and then enters in the Merrimack above the intake to the Pennachuck Waterworks. Next slide, please. So this is what it looks like. The parcel bounds here are in orange, and you can see it's just packed with cars, waiting for their turn to be crushed. The land around it is pretty much what they call mucky peat. It's black gooey marshland. The reason that this thing is sitting out here all by itself, you get this little peninsula of land that's out of the marsh. Why is that? It's a goes back to the glacial history, but basically it's a pile of sand, and so the plants haven't been able to get in there and establish. It's just raised up just a little bit. Unfortunately, when rain comes down, it runs right through that sand and into the underlying soils. So it's just a disaster waiting to happen. Next slide, please. This is just trying to illustrate what we're talking about when I mentioned the soils. So you got this little island of sandy soils that's surrounded by this wetland that's immediately connected to the water table. Next slide, please. This is a flood hazard map. So the area in blue is subject to flooding in a 100-year storm event, and then the amber color is I got it backwards. The 100-year event is in blue, and then the 500-year event is in brown. In other words, more water comes up, and you can see all those cars that are sitting out there would all be flooded in the event of a 500 or 100-year storm. Now we know, looking at places like North Carolina, there have had 2,000-year storms in the last few years. So, I don't really put a lot of faith in what is going to be a 100-year or 500-year storm anymore. It's going to be worse than what's been projected. The next slide, please. So this is a little bit hard for you to see, but there's let's see if do we have that the cursor thing, the little laser doodad. Let's see if it works.
Usually it disappears in the TV, but sometimes.
Yeah. Let me see it.
I think it's the top one there.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get it. Okay. All right. So this line here, this wandering blue line, this is the watershed. Yeah, I didn't add the sound effects, by the way. This is the watershed of the Little Cohos Brook, and then it flows into the Merrimack River. So all that land, any rain that falls inside that watershed, that's going into the brook, and then ultimately into the Merrimack River. And so this facility sits pretty much right in the middle of the watershed and right on the mainstream of the brook. Next slide, please. Setting aside the threat, this is ideal conservation land. The coloring scheme here is that the pink is the best land in the state for wildlife habitat. The green is the best land in our seacoast region. The yellow is land that supports the other high value habitat. So the reason that the recycling facility isn't shown in pink is because it's sitting there. It's developed. It's full of junk cars. But had it not been for it being developed, it would be pink as well. It sits right in the middle of this area of habitat. Next slide, please. And you can see that going on here. In this map, green is it's habitat that animals can easily move through. Red, just the opposite, and you can see along Hall Road. That's where the pavement and the houses and the roofs and everything else is. But the recycling facility sits right in the middle of this beautiful wildlife corridor. Again, it's another reason that the Conservation Commission has an interest in it. Next slide, please. So, given the reasons that we see for doing this, both conservation-wise and probably most importantly, risk mitigation-wise, the next steps would be to do what we're doing here tonight. Are you interested in us pursuing this? Trying to figure out how we could pay for it. There are some grant programs that we could investigate. This is a very odd duck in terms of conservation grants, but we could certainly explore it with some of the agencies and see if there's an interest in it. There's certainly a strong support at DES. They realize the threat that's here, and they are encouraging us to try to take a look at this. So these are some of the ones we've used in the past, the one for Lithia Springs, the Mac Orchard right behind us. But, I'm not guaranteeing we could pursue any of those because they have pretty specific requirements. And like I say, this odd duck doesn't necessarily fit into those, but they also have a lot of sympathy for what we're trying to do here. So then we need to work with the owner and figure out how much is he really willing to take, knowing we're not going to go into the junkyard business as a town. Exactly what is it going to be when we do the cleanup, and probably most importantly, what are the environmental guarantees? So we would be buying a piece of land that has known contamination on it. The DES programs that have cleaned up that contamination come with the land. So any basically fluids that come from a car that contain things like MTBE and other ethers are going to be covered by those grants, and they will continue to help us deal with them. In fact, the situation is much improved. There is still some presence of contaminants, but nothing near like it was when they started the cleanup. We have asked the Attorney General's office for his advice, and they have assigned one of the deputy or the assistant attorneys general to help us go through this due diligence and figure out, can we really take this risk? And I know our town manager has gone down this road with a place in Lebanon that he can describe in more detail. So it's not like it's not our first rodeo here, and at least thanks to the presence of our new town manager. So that's what we're trying to lay out for you. If you have questions, you'd be glad to answer them. If you think this is worth pursuing, not to make a decision tonight, but just to say, yes, let's see if we can eliminate this risk.
This property has potential to be another jewel in our crown of conservation. Our pride and joy is the musquash, and I think our town is noted for having these fabulous conservation areas. This could be not only good for us, but an example to other towns of how to take something bad and turn it into something marvelous.
So, do you know who you talked to at DES?
Well, a number of people. I'm not going to remember all the names, but one of them is the program manager for the oil cleanup section, and I probably haven't got the name right, but MTBE mitigation or something like that.
Okay.
And then also we've worked with the sort of the action officer level, the person that's supervising the contractor that did the work on this. And they're the ones that, you know, put me in touch with, give us all the background information on this. And
Robert
then,
Bishop,
Thank you.
and then we have Joshua Harrison from the AG's office.
right.
Do you know why they didn't want to purchase this site? So if this is an environmental cleanup, I'm just wondering, like, from a state level, why they wouldn't have interest in.
Well, I mean, the state doesn't really, you know, they buy land for state forests or national park or facilities, but this doesn't really fit any of those categories.
I'm just if it's a high contaminant risk, I'm just wondering why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, they deal with contaminated properties all over the state, but the fix is to, you know, not to buy them, but to clean them up.
And the state does own quite a bit of land around that as well. It's in other easements. So
Right.
they've
Yeah,
done that in the past. They would buy land.
Right,
I
there
don't know
is.
why they wouldn't want to buy this piece of land if they're already trying to clean it up.
They do own. It's often more control. They hold easements over a lot of the land around there, and the reason is they were required to mitigate for the impacts of the 293 bridge over the Merrimack River, and so they needed to They needed to provide some mitigation for those projects, so that the benefit of the property that they protected kind of canceled out the harm that was done. And you might remember they had to actually renegotiate the actual place where they put it because of eagles that were nesting out there. Mm-hmm. But in any event, they actually looked at this property as one of the properties that they could buy, because you can see it does sit right in the middle of all this. But when they, saw the contamination that was present, and this was, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe when most of that happened. It was, I think, judged too great a risk.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I guess I'm just confused on why the state wouldn't want to buy this when it's surrounded by other land that's owned by the state. It's been for sale for about 2 years. I don't know why the state doesn't want to buy it if they're already in the process of mitigating the land.
Yeah, well,
if they don't want to buy it, why should we want to buy it?
They met their requirement, so they don't need to. They didn't need to spend any more than they did.
Well, and the state also isn't really looking to acquire property. There's another property owned by the state down on South Road that we're actually trying to convince them to sign over to us, because they really don't want to have to maintain it. And it's in our, it's attaching to our conservation land, so it would make sense that we would be able to maintain it better than the state would.
Okay. It just seems strange. Well, if the state's not interested in it, why should we?
Well, they were interested. They were scared off, I think, by the contamination. I'm speaking for them now, but I assume that's what it was, because they did do an appraisal on it. It could be that they didn't like the price too. I mean, if you think about it from their standpoint, they're trying to come up with mitigation for this bridge. They're only getting a very small amount of land, and at the time it was at a high price. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was a going concern. It was a business that was had a positive cash flow and was making money for the owner.
That's just my concern too. If the state took a look at this and they determined it too big a contaminant risk, they have more resources to take care of contaminants than we do. We have a lot of Superfund sites in town, and I don't know that I want to necessarily add to that. So this has got me a little bit worried.
But we are actually using state funds. That's where this money's coming from.
Any other questions?
And Londonderry would actually benefit from having the land more than the state. We would have potential recreation, picnic site, maybe even a kayak launch that already has parking, which is one of the issues with a lot of our other conservation land is lack of parking to access. So it could be, like I said, another jewel in our crown.
I think it's a great location for conservation land, especially with all the wetlands around it. We've already lost 2 junkyards in town. The one on Litchfield Road, which was Hills.
Yep.
That's gone. We had another one on 28, almost across from the Y, and that's gone. The council in the past has dealt with a lot of complaints about this junkyard, about the cars, being able to see the cars and all this stuff. My biggest concern is that with all the wetlands around there, I'd like to see us probably look into this a little more to try to protect the aquifer of our water in this town. I don't know if and maybe town manager would be able to answer this. The utilities committee would have any input on this, because I'm not a analytical guy. When I look at all these numbers, I don't know if there's somebody on the utilities committee that would look
Mr.
at.
Speltz, he serves dual roles. You could ask him; he's right there.
That's right.
He's
Sorry.
on both committees.
That's right. I forgot.
That's Mr. Dunn.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of information there. I'm not into that stuff, but I also look at on the backside. They're very fortunate. The people on Buckingham, they have town water there. There's other people that have wells. So I don't think it's a bad thing to look into this and see if we could eliminate another junkyard out of town and protect the water quality we have in our community. I know we're going to be losing the other one on 28 as well. So that would leave us with 0 junkyards. Bad thing in a way, because it's nice to be able to have a place to bring your junk, your metal. But in another way, it also protects the water in our community, the aquifer. So my only concern is that when I was reading this, and bear with me here, I had a concern on 17 Laurie Lane. All right. They have equipment in there, a point of entry treatment system for their water. Is that something that the town would now take on to take care of?
It'd be treated the same way. So that is when this problem arose.
Yep.
There was a set of monitoring wells that was put in, and they're still there. That's how we know what's going on there. And then all of the abutting properties that were abutting this parcel were tested, and they all came out okay, except for this one house on Laura Lane, and that's why they put in a point of entry system for them, and they are routinely tested. But it's funded by the state.
Do we know if the potential contaminants on the site could affect people using it for recreational purposes?
Right now the contamination is down in the subsurface area, so that's not even in the mud anymore. It's down below that. It's not in the water.
There's no restrictions on persons on the property being able to know airborne contaminants that I don't know of that would pose a hazard. There's no posting. There's a groundwater management permit from the state, but there's nothing of that nature.
Okay.
I think it's something that would be worth
Numbers have gone down,
looking into a little more. That's my opinion.
Mike, I'd just like to thank you for doing all the hard work on this. I know I've been in a few meetings trying to see if we could get any kind of exemption for us, but doesn't seem like there's any. But I know that this is worth pursuing. This is protection of water. I mean, it's my opinion. It's worth looking into to protect I mean, you explained it. Protect that Merrimack, really. The waterfalls all the way down. It would be a great area, I think, for conservation. For people to use. So, I know Mike's done a lot of the heavy lifting here. So,
I see no harm in looking into it.
do we need a?
Yes, you do, and I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we move that the Londonderry Town Council hereby requests the town manager work with the Conservation Commission to determine the feasibility of purchasing the property.
That's not the motion, Dan.
No?
Drop down paragraph.
That's proposed motion. I think.
Right.
No, proposed motion.
He's got it right.
That's what I'm reading.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was reading the action. Sorry.
You're good.
My,
All right, I'll start over again.
sorry.
All right. Make a motion, remove that the Londonderry Town Council hereby requests the town manager work with the Conservation Commission to determine the feasibility of purchasing the property located at 53 Hall Road with funds from the Conservation Fund. Further, to determine the risk and financial liability to the town should the town council decide to purchase the property. The town manager should consult with Recreation Commission and abutting property owners to determine their interests and concerns with the concept of the town purchasing this property. Additionally, the town manager shall consult with New Hampshire DES and the town's legal counsel to determine risk and potential liability to the town for such a purchase. Finally, we request the town manager present a report and recommendation to the town council. If possible, this should be in coordination with the Conservation Commission and, if applicable, the Recreation Commission.
I have a motion from Dan.
Second.
Second from Deb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work. Seriously, you really put a lot of effort, Mike, especially Mike and Marge also, into doing this. And, I want to thank you for doing that.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
I want to thank you. There was tons of information, very useful information that I read through. Thank you.
All right, we will get to work, gentlemen.
Yes.
And lady.
Okay, Richard Belinsky, 89 Hall Road. Two things. Second thing, Murray Salvage Yard. First of all, I want to make it clear to people before anybody picks up on this and tries to make an issue. I live within a half mile of that. I've been, against that salvage yard for 25 years. I'm glad you're going to look into it. But a few of you seem a little concerned about why they didn't buy the whole salvage yard. So I guess what you're getting at, if they're going to buy a piece of land, then they should buy the whole piece of land. But that's not how it works. I think you all know Al Baldessaro. He lived next door on the other side of the bridge. I don't remember the exact acreage of his property, but say it was 10 acres. The state didn't buy his whole property. They come in and only bought the lowland, the wetland, for mitigation. They didn't buy his house. He still owns the house to this day, and he lives in Florida. So they don't always buy a whole piece of land. All right? It's the same thing they did with the salvage yard. Are you people aware that they did buy part of the salvage yard? Again, I don't remember the exact acreage of it. I think they bought maybe 14 acres and left the 6 because the 6 is high and dry. They're buying wetlands for mitigation when they've disturbed wetlands in whatever the project is. So there's no benefit to them buying high and dry land unless they're going to take the high and dry land and turn it into wetlands, which they can do. And there's a ratio, and I don't remember what it is. If you disturb 1 acre, you have to mitigate it with 2 acres or 3 acres. Do you know what that is, Sean?
Yeah, it's higher than that. I don't know if it's...
Whatever it is. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
remember
a
the
higher
exact
amount,
thing.
yeah.
So keep that in mind instead of, there was a lot of talk here tonight, well, why didn't they buy the whole thing? Well, they didn't buy Al's whole thing either, and he's right next door. That has nothing to do with it. And they will never try to put somebody out of their house if they can, avoid it. I know they did in Derry with the 4A, and they're not going to try to put a business out of business. So get that out of your heads because that's what happened there. You can look it up on the town records. Second thing to keep in consideration is there's a lot of talk in this town about water, putting in water lines and all that, and I 100% agree. Don't have a problem with that. But this board should be doing their best to buy something like this, because to the best of my knowledge, that is on the largest aquifer in the town of Londonderry. And if you don't want to buy something that can help save the largest aquifer in town, then why are we bothering with water? Because it kind of says, well, we don't really care. I know you got to be careful with it, and I don't blame you. But all those testing wells, all the programs those are that are there to monitor that, is all transferable to the town. So it's already in place. So I appreciate that you're going forward with it, but let's get off the fact, why didn't they buy the whole thing, because that's irrelevant. Look at Al's property right next door. They could have bought his house and everything. They didn't. It's how they do it. If they don't have to take a business or a home away, they won't. They will if they have to. So look at it. You can go to the town records and see how much they bought. They bought a lot more of the salvage yard property than is left. I think it might have been 14 acres they took.
Thank you. Anybody else in public comment?
I want to address Richard's comments, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Richard, I just want to confirm what you said about how the state buys land, because I have property that the state wanted to take X amount, and I said, well, that's going to impact, 4 homes. And they're like, oh, no, it's not. And I said, well, have it surveyed. And they're like, oh, no, we're not taking the 4 homes. We're going to move the line. All right, we're going to take, something that's not impacting homes. So I'm very familiar with what you're saying.
Okay, no, that's good. I mean,
I'm aware of that.
Just so people know, I'm inactive, but I've had my real estate license since 1995.
Yeah.
I'm not practicing the state's holding it, but it is valid. So that's how they do it. They don't want to take it if they don't have to.
No.
If they have to, they don't have a problem doing that either if they have to.
Thank you.
Thank you.